The red light is on. That means we are live. We are 67 participants strong so far. We'll have more joining us in the next few minutes. If you've just joined us, welcome. We appreciate you being here. There is a synergy when we're together that is just excellent. We've been talking about taking action this morning, and that is such a positive thing, and we have the opportunity to went too far to hear from our trainer today, Bill Predebon. He is just, I can't tell you how grateful I am to Bill for all the time he takes. He plans in advance to be here with us on Tuesday mornings. He has his thoughts organized, and today he suggested that we talk about taking action, about moving our prospects through the 4-step program, and the results that happen when we do that. And we just have to take action. And when it comes to taking action, Bill is a guy that knows just what that means. He knows the fruits that can come from that. And I can't wait to, boy, I've got a sensitive mouse here. At any rate, I can't wait to hear from him this morning. So I'm going to turn it right over to Bill. How are you, Bill?
I'm laughing right now because you said you have a sensitive mouse.
Oh. Yeah, I bump it and it changes slides on me. I'm sorry about that.
I was thinking about a literal mouse running around that's very sensitive.
Very sensitive, yes.
How are you, Ron?
Fantastic. How's Bill?
I'm good, my friend. I'm very, very good. Thank you very much. Awesome. And thanks again, Ron, for putting this together and messaging me early in the morning to say hello and get me thinking about my training and, putting this together. And, with the theme music and the Bob Snyder's, his general thinking is really powerful, actually. It's amazing what he comes up with and what he's able to convey in his short period of time and his message. And then, Ron, thanks, doing the announcements. I was thinking about it. You started talking about the live streaming of Kohler and the recording of the tax class and Bob Snyder at the Super Saturday gang. I'll tell you, like, if you think about it, and we take it for granted, I do. Like, if you think about the amount of events that are going on across the country, it's phenomenal. Like, the opportunity for us to engage other folks, which is exactly what I'm going to train on or talk about today, is ridiculous. Like, it's crazy how many chances, how many choices, how many opportunities we have to put people in front of information. And what's even crazier is, like, not just our local events, but like when you have these national events with the live streaming of the recording of the class, and you have the opportunity to watch that, from the luxury, from the comfort of your home or your office, when you have the opportunity to, to travel a little bit of a distance and go see Bob Snyder do a Super Saturday. I mean, it's unparalleled and unmatched opportunity in a business, in my opinion. Most of the other companies that I know of in the out there that are, in the same space, they, their events are much fewer and farther between, and their product is not something that they can monetize. So there's no benefit to sharing with the clientele, with the affiliates, how the product's being made, or they hype up a new product coming out in the future or a new endorsement, but we get to watch our product and utilize our product. It's just such a difference. It's the opportunity with Renatus is just phenomenal. And we just tend to take that for granted. But anyway, I just caught that when we were going through all those announcements. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. So with that, you guys, welcome. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas, all those good things. We had a nice call a couple weeks ago, and there have been some phenomenal calls over the holidays. I hope everybody was on some of these trainings. They were amazing. Any way we can enable screen sharing? My phone is so small. Rocky, I don't know what that means. Does that mean you can't hear me? Or, Ron, maybe you can do that. I mean, I have screen share. I think it's enabled according to what my thing says. I don't know. You want me to start my video, Ron?
Couldn't come off the mute button. Sorry. I think that what he's talking about is video. That's up to you, Bill. If you want to show us live as you're speaking, that's your option. Or we can just listen to you and go about our business.
Cool. My video's on. Can you see me?
I can see you. Yes. Let me see.
Wow. Wow. I didn't shower this morning and I didn't shave. So right on. Anyway. So yesterday's call was phenomenal. Michael killed it with talking about, the nationals coming up and talking to everybody and building for that as a sales event or a money-making activity, a money-generating activity, as well as a training, which is really cool. Thank you, Leilani. That's nice. And so, he just did a great job of putting nationals into perspective. I can't tell you how important nationals are. You guys all know this. So what I intend to do, and remember, you guys, we can chat. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Rocky. We can chat if anybody has a comment or a question or something you want me to go off on a tangent with, then feel free. But in the meantime, I'm gonna talk to you guys about a prospect. I'm gonna talk about taking a prospect from start to finish through the 4 steps. I'm gonna give a couple examples. I think I've been trying to think of ways that we can benefit from not just hypothetical but actual tangible things we can take to our business as well. So the first thing that you guys have heard me say this a lot, and I think if you're not doing some sort of cold market lead generation, I think you're at a disadvantage. And just in my opinion, if you're having extreme success with your warm market, then obviously there's not a lot of reason for a cold market if you're generating the income and having the success and building a team that you want from just warm market, and then from your warm market's warm market. And that's great. That's ultimately what you'd prefer to do. But I feel like, especially when you're new or getting re-engaged or whatever the case is, that when you are interested in getting through a learning curve, the more people you can talk to, the better. And the learning curve, what I'm talking about is being able to really sort prospects based on their ability to be a raw prospect. Remember that, ready, able, and willing. Also, your ability to filter and to shut up, not to talk too much, not to tell too much story, not to tell too much fact, and really listen to the client and then solve a problem. And so a lot of that can be expedited and improved through cold market. Okay, great subject. Question: for cold market lead generation, what's the best method to utilize for group invitations utilizing the Renatus iOS database? How to you? All right, Keely, I will break down raw. I love raw. This will be my first national, Chuck. That's awesome. Okay, so what's the best methods for group invitations utilizing the Renatus iOS database? So I'm going to give you my first answer to this question is that I am not big on group invitations. Renatus is a one-on-one, event-driven, personal business, in my opinion and in my experience. I used to, a long time ago, when I first got started in marketing for the old company, I didn't know anything about it, and I just went ahead and I would collect emails and I would blast out like the marketing page for for the intensive, for example, to all my real estate contacts on my email. nobody would show up. I would get no response. Nowadays, you get in trouble for over email sending, whatever they call that, dumping data, whatever. And so to answer your question, Ulilani, as far as using iOS, in my opinion, is more of, I don't even know if it's what the capabilities are for inviting people through iOS. iOS is a lead generation for investing. I believe that we are in store for some of the greatest software to come out with Helios when it comes to tracking group, putting people through a system of text messages, email messages, and follow-up messages, and keeping track of where they are in the system. When you go through your, that's interesting. When you go through your process with your folks with the Helios, and when Helios gets all up and running, and it has, standard text, template emails, and then customized text and emails that you can be sending, set on clocks, set on time frames and what they've been, and you're reminded of what events they've been to, and it's going to be unbelievable. So I think that's where you'll see more of that, being able to do massive group expedited stuff, if that makes sense. So in my opinion, for cold generation, it's the same thing we're taught on. It's street signs, bandit signs. It's Craigslist ads. It's Indeed ads. It could be, Facebook, I don't think is cold market in my opinion, unless you're doing like pay-per-click. But even then, it's somewhat warm, and I'll get to that in a minute. So cold market is talking to somebody, from an advertisement on a one-on-one situation, and you're not just doing a group message. And maybe I don't understand the exact question, but with cold market leads, and I'm going to get to raw in just a minute. When I talk to a client on cold market, and you heard Michael yesterday, he mentioned that you have an 8 or 9 minute call. And sometimes it can be faster in cold market, but, I think it is a 10-minute call. And I think, you've heard me say this before in trainings, but, depending on the ad, and when I'm advertising for people building a real estate team, if you remember, I definitely like to ask several questions all at once. And so that's the seeing the people. So number one is seeing the people. We've got to have a cold market lead generation. And simply, you can almost treat yourself as someone that is booking appointments, right? Someone calls in and they're calling up the doctor's office, and they got to find out a time that they can come in, when they can see the doctor, what it's going to, perhaps even what it's going to cost, or what if they take your insurance and stuff like that. And they want to get the basics out of the way. But you got to remember, if you think about it, the receptionist on the other line, the appointment setter on the other line, she's asking questions. What's the problem? What's your insurance? What's your situation? What's your availability? And she's asking these questions, or he, and then from there, they're gathering the information, and then they can provide you with a solution as to who you can see. You guys, they're not telling us how the doctor's going to read an x-ray, and they're not telling us how, you're going to sit down and get stabbed with a needle, and then he's going to run this blood test and all that stuff. Now, you might ask those questions. Oh, well, are they going to take my blood? And, how much, are they going to be able to tell if I have this kind of cold, or if I'm going to need a flu shot or anything like that? And the lady's going to, or the man's going to sit there on the other end of the line, and they're going to go, that's a great question, but you're going to find that out. You're going to have to see the doctor. Every case is specific, right? And they dodge your question. They answer a question with the question, or, they say that's the information you're going to get when you get here. You're going to come in a little earlier and fill out a form. And then you're going to sit down, and once you meet the doctor, and once you get in, talk to the physician's assistant, and you get your vitals taken and stuff, all that information is going to be able to, and then they're going to provide you with what you need, and we'll be able to solve your problem then, right? And so it's the same thing here, you guys. When we're booking the cold leads, you guys, we're simply trying to figure out where they're at in life, what they're looking for, and why they called, and then all of the solutions and all of their problems and all of their worries are going to be answered at the event by the professional who's in front of the room, who's making the most money, and who's been doing this the longest, and they're up in front of the room, and they're going to answer the questions. And then they're going to get the feel of the environment from all the other people that are all the people in the room, which is you guys, and it's going to be an experience that they can take home. That's step number one, right? You're going to see the people in the cold market lead, and we've got to build for the event. Now, remember, inside that see the people, you can tell that story. You can tell your own story, and I'm not going to talk about in detail necessarily the stories today, like what a story is, but, for example, when someone says, when someone has a question about, how fast can I get into a deal or something to that effect, whatever the question is, you can answer that question with a question. Why is it you ask that? How long you've been trying to do a deal now? And you put it back on them. Well, I've been trying for 2 years. Okay, well, so how fast would you like to do a deal? You know what I mean? You can come back with questions, or you can tell a story. You know what? That's a great question. In fact, my friend Bill, for example, I know when he first got started, his back was against the wall and he was really forced to get to work. And he did his first deal in 6 weeks and made $12,000. Now, that's not typical. You know what I mean? It's not like everybody has that opportunity or everybody's going to do that, but everybody has the same opportunity, and that could be you. Oh, wow, that's awesome. That would be fantastic if I could do that. Yeah, great. So what are you doing Thursday you can't get out of, or whatever. So then, or basically you don't even ask that question. You're just like, so the next opportunity for you to see what we've got going on and understand how you can do it is come Thursday night or whatever, right? Okay, so I'm going to move forward into the next couple steps here, but I'm going to break down raw, okay? So I think this is crucial. I can do a whole training for an hour on raw, to be honest. And raw is ready, able, and willing. The ready means that if you can remember that circle, you might have seen it in a training of some sort, and it's basically a time frame. And at the top of the circle, this is where I should share my screen and draw this, but at the top, and I'll get to these other questions too, you guys. At the top of the circle, if you can imagine a circle, and at the top is life is good, okay? New job, new baby, just got married, just graduated college, got a degree, just got out of the military and looking to get into the workforce. Got a raise, got a promotion, started a business. That person is not necessarily ready to get started in something else. They're already doing that. They don't have the time. They don't have the mental capacity. Their interests are not there, right? So at the top of that circle, if you're talking to warm market, especially if you're talking to 3-foot rule, or you're talking to people at a networking event. Imagine you go to a networking event and you meet somebody and you're like, this is awesome. This person's into real estate. They're into their own business. They're looking to work from home. And they're sitting there telling you how great their new product business is. And they're selling CBD oil and it's saving the world, and they're dripping it on their dogs, and they're like drinking it, like smoking it and drinking it, and it's just the greatest thing in the world. All right. And then you're like, dude, that's awesome. I love CBD oil. I want to buy your oil, and you should come see my event. Right. And then you guys, they're out there doing this new CBD oil thing, and they're totally fine. They're not ready to go start another business. They just started one. Or if they didn't just start it, they've been doing it for a year and they just had their first, 100 people sign up or something. They're not ready. They're not ready, right? But now you start to imagine a circular clock, and that was 12 o'clock. Now you're going to come down the clock and you're going to hit 3 o'clock. Maybe you're going to hit 2 to 4 o'clock. And at 2 to 4 o'clock, the CBD oil guy is starting to think, he's like, it's kind of interesting. I got this 100 people, and some people are falling off and they're not buying the oil anymore. The oil went up to $100 an ounce. And I got to keep buying this stuff every month, and I'm running out of money because I bought a bigger car, and I can't afford it anymore. And he's starting to question his CBD oil business. All right. And all of a sudden, there's a new CBD oil business, and now this CBD oil business is it's like 6-minute abs, right? You can do it in 1 minute less. So this CBD oil is a little bit better. And all of a sudden, he's got a competitor out there, and some of the people are going to that because they got a better compensation plan. And he's starting to question his business. And then you meet him at the networking event, or meet him on Facebook or her. And all of a sudden, this person is excited. They're like, well, I got this business, and they're trying to, they're keeping the image up, right? They're keeping up their image about their business. And then you ask a question, you're like, well, do you keep your options open when it comes to multiple streams of income, right? To write that down if you're taking notes. Do you keep your options open when it comes to multiple streams of income and opportunity? And he says, yeah, actually I am, yeah, it sounds good. And now you start to ask questions about his business. Well, it was going pretty good. And he starts to tell you the truth, right, about his business or her business. And it's no longer, this is the greatest thing ever, and I'm not drinking the oil anymore because I can't afford it, because no one's buying it, and there's too many people out there, and I have to sell 1 billion bottles of oil to make $10,000. So he starts to realize it's not that great. So now he's at that 5 o'clock hour on the clock, and he's ready. He's ready for a change. And that could be the person that, didn't get the raise at the end of the year. It could be the person that got looked over for the promotion. It could be the person that lost their job. It could be the person that their kids just started back at school, and now they're at home working, having nothing to do at home, and their kids are now in kindergarten, and they're not staying at home anymore, and they've got time on their hands. This is a ready person. This is someone in your sphere of influence, in your 3-foot rule, in your war market, where they're ready to look for something different. And they're obviously responding to your ad on a cold market lead as well. Now they have to be able, right? But before we get to able, they've got to be willing. And in order for them to be willing, and I'll get to able in a minute, but willing, you're finding the folks that are at 5, 6, and 7 o'clock, and they are ready to make a change. Their life is at the bottom of the where they thought it would be based on when they started at noon or at midnight up there at the 12 o'clock hour, and everything was great. Life has beat them down a little bit, and their clock has been turning and moving forward, and time is running out, and they're getting towards the bottom of the hour, and things did not go the way they wanted it to. So they're ready. Now, willing is a little bit different, right? Willing means they need to understand real estate and or business from home, right? If you're talking to someone and their life is not where they want it to be, and they are a cold market lead, and you're having a conversation and they're like, man, I have got to make money tomorrow. I've been out of work for a month. I'll take anything. I need to pay my bills. I've been borrowing money from this person. They're starting to say some things that are bringing up some red flags for you guys, for like, wow, this person needs Renatus, right? And ultimately, yes, they do need Renatus. But Renatus is not a get rich quick. Renatus is not a paycheck next week, right? Very, very, very few people are making money in their first month in Renatus. It's just a fact. And so if you're selling them a product from Renatus based on the fact that they're going to make money next week and they're looking for a job, they're not willing to do Renatus. And in fact, you're not doing them justice by hooking them up with Renatus. You're going to hook them up with Renatus simultaneously, but you're going to encourage them to get a job. If they don't have a car, you're going to encourage them, oh, that's cool, to get, I don't know, was that me? To get I don't know what's going on, to get a job and get some transportation. And so they have to be willing to do what it is that we do. And then that also moves you forward into the fact that they need to be willing to do real estate. They have to understand that real estate is what real estate is about, what it can provide, what the opportunity is with real estate, and as well as working from home if you're working on the IMA side of things and everything like that. Now, I'm not going to spend too much more time on willing. and raw. And finally, as you know, the A is able. And able typically is going to be the, in my opinion, the one part of raw, a raw client, a raw student, a raw prospect that, may hold someone back the most. It's probably where we spend a lot of the time working with a student. They definitely, when they see Renatus and they are at a position where they're ready to make a change in their life, and they see Renatus and they see the opportunity, they meet the community members, there's not too many people who are not interested. In fact, I would guess and bet that everybody is interested, but they dance around it because they just cannot fathom a $20,000 outlay of money. No matter if they have it or not, no matter if they have reserves or not, no matter what it is, they write it off the minute they see 20 grand. They're just not capable of spending $20,000 yet till we spend time with them. And so, I would say that everybody would do it if the price was cheaper. And in fact, we all know the price should be even more. So with that, the person has to be able. Now, being able does not mean that everybody has the money in their pocket. Being able simply means that they have to have resources. But I'm telling you, and when you're talking to, and I've dealt with this myself directly and a lot of people with my team, unfortunately, there are people that need to go on a drip. There are prospects that you need to move to a certain part of your whiteboard or your mental Rolodex or wherever you're putting them where they are not able right now, no matter what. When you're asking them questions and you're going through the 12 steps to get funded, and they tell you they don't have anybody. They don't have family. They don't have friends. They don't have colleagues. That they're not willing necessarily to even talk to some of those folks. And you gather information by asking questions specifically about different resources. And you're talking about angel investors. They have no resources of their own, which is common. I was one of them. I was one of the folks who had absolutely no personal resources whatsoever. I would have, at a minimum, needed to use my wife as the resource as an angel investor, but even then, that was not in the cards for me at the time. So when you go through this and then you start to bring up the fact of an angel investor who can also have all of those other resources, and they are flat out telling you their parents are passed away, their sister is in jail, and they're giving you these scenarios of where their warm market is and where their resources are that would be angel investors for them. They're not able, right? And no matter how much they tell you and how many times they come around and they're able to get to the events and they've got the best attitude and all of these things, that's great. You want to keep them coming around and all of that stuff, but you need to be able to find prospects that are able to fund, because this isn't a charity. And unless you want to make it one for yourself. But if you want to get paid and you want to build a team and you want to change people's lives, you have to talk to people that are able to fund. And it's much more enjoyable when people can fund. And we do not write them off, the other people, but we put them in a different bracket. We put them in a different category, and we work with them in the future as they begin to go down the journey to make themselves able, if that makes sense. So I hope that kind of described raw a little bit as far as being a raw client. And when you find someone who's ready, willing, and able, they will enroll, which moves me to my next training. Let's see. Create subject for cold market lead generation. I think we went over that. How about one-on-ones via Zoom video call with a mentor or a small group? So again, anything is possible. I guess if you are away from somebody far away, like another state, and you need to do a one-on-one, folks, Zoom or Skype or whatever works. I guess I don't do it. I do a. I'll tell you what I do. I do a recorded webinar, right? I get them to the webinar. If there's any meeting within, like Scott Rose says, 200 miles, 5 hours, I get them to the meeting. If they're not willing to go to the meeting, I can't spend a lot of time with them. I'll tell you what, if I don't know your situation, I'm guessing that everybody on this line, there's 80-something people on this phone. I don't know why there's not 100, but there's 80-something people on this phone. And here's the thing. I'm guessing most of you would have done anything you could to see this information. You made a decision and you would have driven to see your first Super Saturday, or your, if you didn't have one in your backyard. So if you're working with people in another state where there's no territory, where there's no group, and they have to go several hundred miles to get to one or more, then two things need to happen, in my opinion. First of all, you've got to be 5-star qualified, and you should be building locally, no matter what, in my opinion, right? Simultaneously, you can build over there in the other state. But if you've got someone on the ropes that you really want in your business and that really wants to do this and things like that, and you're spending a lot of time working with them, but they haven't been able to pull the trigger because they haven't seen a live meeting and they're not willing to go that far and things like that, I would let it go for a while. And here's what I'm getting at. When I said that you guys are willing to do whatever you want, I know that I was, right? So when someone catches the vision here, then they're willing to start the community there themselves right there. And then that person, in my opinion, is worth working with, where they're ready to like have a webinar and just do it, right? You don't need to, if you remember the IMA agreement and you sign and you answer the questions, you don't need to be 5-star or be a PAC member to put something on the calendar. You don't need to, you can start a meeting in your own room, in your own office, in your own webinar, whatever you want. The minute you become an IMA and you're in good standing and you're being compliant, you can do whatever you want. And if you've got somebody who's willing to do that and has done a startup business or just throws all caution to the wind and says, I don't need to know much about Renatus to start inviting people. I'm just going to do it because I want to make money and change lives, whatever that. Then if that's you, and then you found another person just like you, then it's worth the time. But I'm telling you, this business is a face-to-face business, right? If you listen to Michael, and I always say Michael, you guys, and I mean Ron, I mean John O'Neill, and I mean Christian Sadler and Scott Rowe and all the Richards, all the major income earners and guys and girls that have been around this business for a long time. Wanda, all these folks that are doing well. When you listen to what they say, Michael Huggins will drive 45 minutes to someone's house, right? And there's exceptions to that. He's not like he drives to everybody's house. But my point is, he gets in front of them with a live laptop and a live information, and it's a one-on-one, face-to-face, and there's sacrifice. There's bitter sacrifice or bittersweet sacrifice to making a long drive, going to someone's house on a Sunday night when you don't want to work on a Sunday. There's doing these things, and they also make a sacrifice themselves, right? And they're taking time out because they work 2 jobs, but they're taking time out on their 1 day off a week that they actually have where they're normally with their kids or their family, and they're out to meet you for 3 hours on a one-on-one, right? So this business is about one-on-one. Your follow-ups, right? And we're talking about the steps. My follow-ups are one-on-one. My follow-ups are face-to-face. If I'm out of the country, out of the state, and they don't have a meeting and they watch a webinar, I'm not doing a Zoom thing. I'm getting on a personal phone call with them on my cell phone to their cell phone. And it is a contact information based phone call. And then I'm working with them to get to the closest meeting, right? I'm rarely, if I'd have to think about a closed sale over the phone from someone who was a webinar and then didn't go to a live event. And now I just thought of it. Jim in Pittsburgh. Okay. He runs the Pittsburgh team right now. We've been trying to build that for a year, and it's been a slow go. But Jim was in the space of real estate. And I'm going to give you guys some examples here before of moving people through the system that I think will help you as well, so I can tie this all together. But Jim was in Pittsburgh, but I'd known Jim since 2013. I met him in a mastermind, you guys, in real estate in Acapulco. And I was there for a week at a special real estate mastermind. It was not a cheap mastermind. And I met Jim, and he was coaching for Than Merrill and Fortune Builders. And he was a warm market. And so over time, seeing my Facebook stuff, and when I got back into Renatus in 16, and I started telling the story without call to action on Facebook through attraction marketing, he reached out to me, and vice versa. We'd always stayed in touch. So when I got him on the phone with John O'Neill, and John O'Neill was doing three-way calls with me, and I was sending him videos, and I would send him the information about velocity banking, sent him to the website and stuff like that. There was no way for him to go to a meeting. The closest one would be Philadelphia, and that's 5 hours away from him. And so that wasn't an option for him. But he enrolled full combo based on my relationship with him. But he was willing to start this business there for him with no meeting, right? And he was willing, and we were willing to fly out when he put the people in the room. And obviously they're going to pass up to me and get him 5-star qualified. So the point is there was a reason for me to do it that way. I think until you're 5-star, and once you're 5-star, until you're building a team, local is where to do it. Get yourself some sales underneath your belt, some team members under your belt, and then start to expand in territories that don't have meetings. And regardless of however you do it, I'm a big fan of this being a personal, private, face-to-face business, and folks need to they absolutely need to experience the love and the camaraderie and the community that we have at all our events. And it's an event-driven business. When it comes to warm market, I'm going to give you an example of a sale that we, enrollment we had last month on my team. I placed an ad on Craigslist, and a friend, a guy I had built a relationship with over a year, and he was not able to fund the education, and life gets in the way a lot for a lot of folks, and I'd always stayed in touch with him, and he's a good person, and I would check back in, and he would check back in with me once in a while, and he got to an event where there was a regional, and he said, you know what, I've been talking to one of my friends, she's interested in real estate, and I'm going to bring her with me. And she ended up enrolling in the education. And she saw the velocity banking. She saw Michael Huggins at the regional. I met with her the following Tuesday, and at a one-on-one, I think I might have mentioned this before, and she enrolled that day. She went to one Thursday night, had a couple questions in the morning when we met at the one-on-one. Within 15 minutes or 30 minutes, we answered those questions and went through a couple things, and then we enrolled. And and I think I told you this before, but one of her comments that I'll never forget was, the velocity banking alone, and her son has agreed to this, or said this as well, and concurred, is that the velocity banking alone is worth the $20,000 enrollment, let alone for two people for life, for everything else we offer. And you can take that story and I would share it. What's interesting is this individual and her business partner, which is a family member, her son, they started getting to work on the education. They've gotten into a few deals already within their first 30 days, but they were prepared. They were ready, and they've gone at it, and that's what they're doing. And they also became an IMA a couple weeks later. They went to a Super Saturday. They've gone to the training calls and stuff like that. They watched the 10-step training. And she spoke to a warm market with conviction. And she told that person a couple of things that she was learning. And you've heard the leaders across the country talk about, gosh, you got to learn what I just learned. This individual, based on the relationship he has with her, enrolled in the education, full combo, cash combo, and had never even been to a meeting. I did not do a follow-up with them. I did not do a one-on-one with them. I've never even met him yet. I missed him the other day at the property tour, unfortunately, but I will meet him this week. My point is, she enrolled her warm market, brand new IMA, based on the conviction of the opportunity that Renatus offers. She heard Michael Huggins say on a call, you know, and Michael talked about it last night on the webinar, even about being, you know, the 65-year-olds where 95 of them are dead or dead broke. The 65-year-olds that retire on $27,000 by the time, on average, by the time they hit 65. And she started thinking to herself, everybody needs this. She's heard it from us. She's heard it from the leadership. But it hits home, you know, and she thinks about her friends, and she thinks about her colleagues, and she thinks about her circle of influence. And she absolutely does not believe that she wants any of them to end up in that, because no matter what we think, you guys, look at the 5 people around you, look at the 10 people around you at your work and at your school and at your kids' events and stuff like that. And 9 out of 10 of you are going to be broke and working at 65 or dependent on family and miserable financially. And so if we don't share this information with conviction, then hopefully that 9 out of 10 will not be you. But the rest of your friends and family are going to be that 9 out of 10, unless you give the opportunity to change their life with Renatus. So that was her choice, and that was her conviction. And he bought her, and he bought the opportunity that she's providing based on the fact that she did it. And I hope that makes sense. All right. I got 8:55, so we got a few more minutes here. Hopefully I'm not missing any questions. Oh my gosh, maybe I am. I like this raw training. Got it, one-on-one. Okay, let's see. Well, that's a lot. Oh, that's long. That's a lot of talk. Glad I'm not reading that. Okay. Thanks, Bill. I'm focused on attracting raw clients. Awesome, Keely. All right, Ulani, looks like you get it. All right, cool. So I thought maybe I was missing some questions. Cool. So here's another example, you guys, of moving prospects through. I have a Facebook friend of mine who just enrolled the other day. And I've known Brett. I met Brett in person in 2011, maybe 9. I can't remember. It was a while ago. In fact, it was the old company. And I think he had come to an event, and then his life changed. He moved up to Seattle. He started an insurance business, and life gets in the way. And so, or not in the way, life went on. Family issues, all kinds of stuff, right? And he did well. And then he moved back down to Arizona, and he followed me on Facebook, and he pinged me it was June maybe, or July of this past summer. And he's like, dude, I want to know what you're doing. I'm into real estate. I'm looking for a change. I've been doing this insurance thing. And anyway, so it was like, boom, he was on. So I reached out to him right away. Within a couple of weeks, he came to an event. That was 6 months ago. And he had an idea of how he was going to fund the education for a long time. And we had different opportunities. I've done several one-on-ones. He's been to many, many meetings. I follow up with him every once in a while. I'm like, hey, man, you should come. And, he's got family, and he's got work, and he's got his business, and he's got his all these things going on like everybody does. But it was a constant warm market drip. And I would constantly invite him to different events that were special. Not every Thursday night. I don't believe in, when someone's been to a Thursday night until they're an IMA, they're not going to every Thursday night. If you got a couple different people doing the event, maybe invite them when someone new's doing it, so they can see it from a different perspective. But you want to invite them to different events, in my opinion. And then if they haven't been to a Thursday night in a month or 2 months, re-invite them. I like to say, come see it all over again for the first time. You're going to want to get re-engaged in this, right? And I make up something like that about inviting them to that. And then I got him to several events, even the bigger events, the regional and stuff like that. But timing is everything. So he was ready. He was willing and he was able, but he was not ready. He was not ready to pull the trigger until the new year. And even in December, I incentivized him to close in December, and it wasn't worth it for him. He was ready to do it in January based on the time that he was financially ready and emotionally ready and ready with his business and things like that. And so, there's a prospect that's a warm market, somebody I know, someone who came off of Facebook after a long time of not talking to him, and it's a 6-month process. If we are only working with 1 or 2 people and it takes 6 months, your business is going to die and you're not going to be appreciative of the opportunity with Renatus. Here's a quick question. Rocky says, any thoughts on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, recruitment? I mean, yes to all the above. Definitely Facebook. I guess Instagram is the new younger generation thing. My only thought on any of those social media opportunities out there in the world is, attraction marketing is absolutely the best way to go. In fact, I don't even know if you ever need to make a call to action on social media. Let them call to action you. Let them reach out to you. I'm interested, make some sort of comment. If you're posting things on social media and you're making posts of videos or whatever of things that you're doing, things that you've learned, number one, you got to make sure you're not scrolling too much. I mean, you're posting for a specific purpose. And then if you post, you've got to go back and follow up, and you got to respond to everybody on there, not just the people that are interested in doing what you're doing, but also the ones that are just commenting and liking it, because they're going to be the future ones that are going to eventually be interested, right? And so you want to comment, you want to follow up, you want to like their stuff back on your post. It's on purpose. It's literally an advertising medium, and it is you on purpose reaching out to people and doing it subliminally, right? Doing it without call to action, doing it on purpose, but behind the scenes. And then they start to respond, and over time, they might just like it. And then they might make a comment later. And then 3 months down the road, that person's been following you and doesn't even like some of your stuff. And all of a sudden, they're interested in doing what you're doing. But it was their idea. They came up with the thought that they should reach out to you and get together with you. It wasn't you convincing them to come work with you. So it's a much better plan when it's their idea. When they are the ones who have decided that it's time for them to work with you, it's a much better opportunity for you to get them closed than if you're trying to convince them through call to action. Let them know what you're doing. Have this life that looks to be a great life with all these folks in your community and your education, and you're telling the truth with all this stuff, but you're just simply putting it out there, and you're allowing somebody else to make the decision to want to join you. And when it's their decision, it's a much better way. I am 100% into look at Nate, $100,000 a month based on a social media post on a Tesla or whatever it was that time. I've got a couple other stories, but I'm going to wrap it up. It's 9:02. We got to respect everybody's time, you guys. I just greatly appreciate being on here. I love the questions. I love that you guys are active, and I just think we have a super strong nation. I greatly appreciate Ron and the opportunity he provides for us to be on this platform to speak to you guys. I'm fortunate to be able to share this information with you guys. And I'm telling you, Michael talked about the 4 steps last night on a national webinar, and you would think he'd come up with something new, but I'm joking, because there is nothing new. And that's why I wanted to do this 4-step training is actually putting the steps. You've got to have you want to have a few lead sources, and anything's possible when you're following these steps. It will happen, and it's what led to, a $40,000 a month for me last month. It's just an amazing opportunity to change people's lives. And now I've got, I love having a team. I'm fortunate and blessed with every single one of my team members, and you guys will be too. When and most of you guys are building teams, and so a lot of you guys are new, and your teams are about ready to come up. But you guys are awesome. Thanks for your time. I will put in there, just in case some of you don't have it, my cell phone, 760-533-3141. 760-533-3141 is my phone number. I don't know if I did that privately or what. Oh, well. Anyway, thanks, you guys. Thank you, Ilani. You're welcome. Thanks for your questions. Have an amazing day. Make it a great day, and take care. Thanks for your time on this, and I will close it out here. Thanks, folks. I guess we'll put this up on the recording. So I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. What do I want to do? There we go. All right. Have a good day, everybody. I'm going to end the meeting. Take care.